What does it mean to be a woman in politics in Pakistan? Can women lead in a country where political power has long been the domain of elites and generals? Does it mean that the generals and the elites are afraid of an average woman citizen of this country being part of the legislation and politics of Pakistan? And how does one rise when every attempt at political engagement is met with systemic barriers, intimidation, torture, and even imprisonment? Today, we will discuss this with the hard-to-swallow history of Pakistan. This is the story of Pakistani women in politics, a story marked by courage, resistance, and transformation. From being tokens in elite circles to becoming agents of change, this journey has been long, painful, and often silenced. However, in recent years, a political awakening, driven in part by the rise of PTI, has given women a new voice. It began just after the independence of Pakistan when a sister of the founder of Pakistan, Fatima Jinnah, was stopped from speaking on the radio in 1951. The correspondents at that time, Bukhari, later told Miss Fatima that it was a technical fault, an excuse still used today to censor speeches of PTI leaders. Miss Fatima Jinnah's book My Brother, written in 1955, was not published until 1987, long after her death, due to censorship by Zia's regime. The brutality and immorality of the state did not stop here. When Miss Fatima decided to enter politics and run for the 1965 presidential election, she faced severe derogatory remarks against her by Ayub Khan, who called her an agent of India, a separatist trying to separate KPK, and even called her a spinster who lived most of her life in her brother's home. Despite overwhelming national support for Miss Fatima, the massive rigging by Ayub Khan brought out the results contrary to reality. If it wasn't enough, the Ayub regime also stopped the proper inquiry of the mysterious death of Miss Fatima despite numerous pleas made by her nephew, Akbar Purbhai. In a final insult, a water bill notice in 2014 threatened her with arrest at her former residence, decades after her death. Her treatment raises a haunting question. What crime did Miss Fatima Jinnah commit to deserve such enduring punishment? With Ayub gone, came in the flamboyant, decorated general and hand-picked successor, Yahya Khan. Though he ruled for quite a short time, his tenure is remembered as the days of gross stereotyping of women as nothing but comforters and lovers, one of the worst political eras for women. There was almost no notable woman politician or figure who could be a voice for women, and this paved a sort of way for mass atrocities in East Pakistan against women, as it has been mentioned in the Pakistani probe of the 1971 war. Women like General Rani and Shamim, the Black Pearl, were not political but held massive powers of generals and bureaucrats in their hands, yet they never utilized such powers to represent women and make politics easier for them. This was the era where such women held unaccountable power without being in politics just because they were close, or should I say, too close to Yahya. Not only were they handling the housewarming parties and providing women to powerful people, they were also advising General Yahya on several national matters. General Rani used to boast about how her house was the policy-making house of Pakistan, with many senior decision-makers coming to her to have an appointment set with Yahya, while the discussion of transferring generals was also nothing but words of General Rani herself. In East Pakistan, when Bengali women decided to use their political rights, they were subjected to abduction, torture, and even death. One of them was Salina Perveen, a journalist and poet by profession. She was a vocal writer for Bengali rights and freedom and was killed on December 14, 1971 during the intellectual killings carried out by the Yahya administration. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto's government afterwards gave some women symbolic political roles. It also cracked down on women who defied the state narrative. Bhutto's government appointed women to high-profile symbolic positions, which was a progressive step at the time. Dr. Ashraf Abbasi was elected as the first female deputy speaker of the National Assembly in 1973, a historic milestone. Women like Abida Hussein emerged as elected leaders at local levels, showing early signs of political participation beyond symbolic roles. However, these were largely elite women, often related to powerful families or political dynasties. By mid-1970s, several protests erupted in Pakistan. Women who participated in these protests were arrested, beaten, or subjected to state harassment, particularly in urban centers like Karachi and Lahore. One of the notable women figures to face state harassment was Naseem Khan of ANP. She was called disruptor alongside several other female protesters by the state media. Many female student leaders from progressive groups such as the Democratic Students Federation or National Students Federation were arrested or expelled from universities. With the removal of Bhutto and entry of Zia, the political space for women further contracted. Under General Zia's regime in the 1980s, women's rights faced severe repression. His era saw the implementation of the Hooded Ordinance, which sparked several women-led protests. Women were discouraged from participation, and those who resisted faced surveillance, censorship, and intimidation. One of the first victims of Zia's oppression was the widow of Bhutto. She was repeatedly arrested, placed under house arrest, and banned from addressing public gatherings. In March 1981, during a peaceful protest in Lahore, she was severely baton-charged by police. The assault left her with head injuries. The regime justified the crackdown by accusing her of inciting unrest, despite the protest being non-violent. Zulfikar Bhutto's daughter was also jailed several times. At one point, she was held in a men's prison under extremely harsh conditions. She was denied access to medical care, books, and sometimes even light, psychological warfare intended to break her spirit. Zia's era's abrupt ending and the rise of Benazir were monumental. While Benazir's rise in 1988 was globally significant, it did not translate into mass female political mobilization within the party. The PPP largely relied on elite and feudal structures to select women for power. For instance, in the 1988 elections, elite names like Shahnaz Wazir and Saida Abida Hussain came into play. While in 2002 general elections, of the 60 reserved seats for women in the National Assembly, PPP filled its quota with relatives of male politicians or women from influential feudal families. Only a handful had any background in activism or public service, such as Fazia Wahab or Sherry Rahman. By 2013, PPP had fielded just 9 women candidates on general seats out of 206 National Assembly candidates, less than 4.4%. The PMLN demonstrated an even more conservative approach. Dominated by traditional patriarchal structures, the party remained reluctant to field women in general elections. In the 2013 general elections, the PMLN fielded only 6 women candidates for general National Assembly seats, representing just 2.8% of its total candidates. And these candidates were prominent figures such as Saira Afzal and Ano Shiraman. Reserve seats were again filled largely through loyalty and family connections, such as Mariam Aurangzeb, Marvi Maiman, and Shaza Khawaja. Women like Mariam Nawaz, though influential in recent years, rose through hereditary privilege rather than political grooming or public service. The party's failure to implement gender quotas in internal elections or promote women in policy making roles further exposed its lack of systemic commitment to women's inclusion. PMLN also has a history of politically targeting Benazir Bhutto based on her gender. Her naked pictures were thrown from the airplane onto a city. She was kept as a prisoner in a male cell. She was repeatedly called with derogatory remarks whenever she entered the National Assembly's main hall. And not only that, they also targeted Ms. Jemima Khan, ex-wife of Imran Khan, based on her ethnicity and previous religion, despite her converting to Islam before the marriage. In contrast, PTI under Imran Khan introduced a significant shift by opening doors for middle-class, professional women with no political family background. PTI's rise coincided with the growth of urban middle-class consciousness, which the party successfully tapped into. In the 2018 general elections, PTI fielded 33 women candidates for general seats in the National Assembly, the highest among all major parties. PTI female MNAs, including new names like Zartaj Gul, Aliyah Hamza, and Shireen Mazari. More significantly, PTI cultivated female leadership outside the traditional dynasties. They entered through party ranks, digital activism, or performance-based recognition, marking a departure from dynastic norms. PTI also leveraged its strong digital presence to engage young women, encouraging their participation in policy discussions, party organization, and campaign activities. Under Imran Khan's government, key female figures held substantial portfolios. Yasmin Rashid served as Punjab's health minister and made profound progress during COVID. Shireen Mazari served as Minister for Human Rights and led significant reforms, including criminalizing domestic violence, pushing for anti-rape legislation, and creating women's harassment reporting mechanisms in workplaces. PTI's government also launched the ASAS program under Dr. Sania Nishtar, one of Pakistan's most respected technocrats, which provided financial assistance to over 7 million women by 2021 through digital cash transfers, targeting poor and lower middle-class women directly for the first time at such a scale. Throughout Pakistan's history, military dictatorships have consistently sidelined and silenced women. Each era brought its own injustices, stripping women of their voices, their rights, and their safety. But the darkest chapter was yet to come. Under Field Marshal Asim Munir, Pakistani women have faced an unprecedented wave of repression, incarcerations, physical torture, character assassination. These were not isolated acts, but part of a chilling pattern. For the women of Pakistan, his era hasn't just stalled progress, it has dragged them back by decades. This isn't just history repeating, it's history deepening its scars. Since the regime change operation in 2022, the Joint Form 47 government formed by the PPP, PMLN, and the military establishment has repeatedly demonstrated an alarming disregard for women's rights. This illegitimate coalition has set new precedents in misogyny, harassment, and the systematic violation of women's dignity. Notable females like Bushra Bibi, Yasmin Rashid, Khadija Shah, Aliyah Hamza, Sunam Javed, Shireen Mazari, and even the daughter-in-law of Allama Muhammad Iqbal were arrested, abducted and jailed illegally for a long time without any proper humane treatment. Imran Khan's wife was made a victim to a maligning campaign involving the credibility of her marriage with Imran Khan. Several jailed women's families were sent threats that their jailed family member would be a victim of sexual violence in jail. These actions collectively highlight a broader agenda of silencing and marginalizing women from the political arena. Despite that, the women turned out to be stronger than they were perceived to be, creating history that will be remembered for years to come. The future of Pakistan's democracy hinges not just on fair elections or strong institutions, but on the inclusion of women not as token symbols, but as equal shapers of policy, society, and the nation's destiny. From Fatima Jinnah's defiant stand to the everyday councilwoman in a rural district, the journey of Pakistani women in politics is still being written one brave voice at a time.